Firstly, thank you everyone for joining us today. I appreciate that this week has been heavily anxiety inducing for many of us, but hopefully this call can give you some clarity and information that is really essential during this time. So I'm going to introduce myself, and Rim will introduce herself, and Nick will also introduce himself and tell us a little bit about the work that he does. But just so you know, this call is recorded and we'll be sharing it after the call is up as well. So on today's agenda, we're going to introduce ourselves, run through a little bit about us and what we do and what Nick does. And then we're going to answer the kind of top questions, which is what is the white paper? Because I think that clarity is essential during this time on what actually it means. What do we know off the back of the white paper? What do we not know? And what you can be doing right now. And then we will save some time and space for Q&A. So I appreciate a lot of you may have already read the white paper, but it's always great to also have an established immigration professional like Nick to let us know a bit more on, what the future might look like. And might is a very important word here. Okay, so sorry, I've been speaking for a lot, but I'm Karina. I'm one of the co-founders of Migrates. And myself and Rim, we've both been sponsored 6 different times by 6 different employers. We've spent a combined total of 22 years on visas in the UK. And we've now built Migrates, which is a platform that helps international talent land visa-sponsored roles in the UK. We've helped 65 people, and honestly, probably more. We've just kind of lost track of how many people have come through the Migrates platform as well to get visa-sponsored roles in the UK. And Rim, do you want to quickly introduce yourself as well, just so that people know who you are?
Let me unmute myself. Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I am Rim. I am the other half of Migrates, as Karina said. I have been living myself in the UK for the last 9 years. I initially came as a student and then became a fresh graduate. I was sponsored 3 different times on the skilled worker visa. I went through the 5-year ILR route. So obviously that part of the kind of white paper deeply resonates with me. But yeah, that's the kind of quick gist. I know that there's a lot to cover, so I'm just going to keep it very short and tight. And Nick, really amazing to have you on board. I'm sure it will be a very exciting session, and I'm looking forward to everything that we'll cover.
Awesome. And without further ado, Nick Nason, do you mind telling us a little bit about who you are?
Thanks, Karina. Thanks, Rim. Yeah, so I've been working as an immigration lawyer for about 15 years. I have my own firm, which is called Edgewater Legal, based in London, and we have clients across the whole spectrum of immigration work, skilled worker, global talent. And basically, we do all kinds of visas. So essentially, this set of rules or set of proposals, I should say, is extremely kind of consequential for us and for all of our clients. And so this week, as Karina mentioned, has been is quite something dealing with kind of calls from clients who both current and in the past who've been trying to get some clarity on what it is that they are looking at. And so I think it's going to be quite helpful to kind of address that here. Hopefully we can answer some of your questions and to kind of give you as much clarity as we can at this stage on where we are.
Thanks, Nick. So the first thing I think what we want to discuss is what is the white paper?
Yeah, so I guess the most important point, and this is I wanted to address this first before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of what's being proposed, is that a white paper is a set of proposals. It's not new rules. I've had at least, I think, 4 clients or previous clients have called me up this week who have referred to the new rules, and that is not what these are. These are a set of proposals that may become rules in the future. Okay, and so the key thing to bear in mind is that lots of things can change from these proposals to what actually comes out in the end, to the actual rules.
Mm,
And I was kind of looking back at the 2018 white paper. So the last immigration white paper was in 2018. And I was looking for things that were in that white paper that didn't actually come to fruition. So, for example, there was a minimum £30,000 salary threshold proposed in the 2018 white paper, and that didn't come through. There was also a 12-month low-skilled work visa that was proposed in the 2018 white paper, and that was also scrapped. So, yeah, really key point to bear in mind as we go through all of this is that when we talk about what's in the white paper, it's not what the rules are today or even next month. It's going to be a process that we're going to go through in order to come up with those new rules. Okay.
Understood. And what does that process look like? Can you just demystify that for us?
Yeah. So basically, what will happen now is that there should be a period of kind of public consultation, and so what's essentially going to happen is that this is super important, this part of it, because it can really affect what comes out in the end. So kind of stakeholders, the public, businesses, advocacy groups, migrates, all of you guys on the call can provide feedback on these proposals. So either on a kind of individual basis or on a kind of via a kind of representative group. And kind of as we saw with the 2018 white paper, changes were made following public consultation. So engaging with this process is really worth it. But once that's happened, they'll then go through the process of writing up the rules and either via secondary legislation or primary legislation, and they'll go through their different processes to become the actual rules.
Understood.
Yeah.
And what's the timeline of something like this? How long does something like this usually take for it to happen or come into effect?
So it's quite difficult to estimate at this stage. So the public consultation phase is probably going to be a few months at least, and it could happen in the summer towards the autumn. Some of the changes that they propose will probably require primary legislation, and so that obviously needs a bill in Parliament to go through all that process. And so, we're looking at kind of summer 2026 for implementation for primary legislation. That's the kind of probably more to do with the changes to citizenship and stuff like that. For secondary legislation, it's much quicker, and that could be in force much quicker towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, possibly. So that is really a kind of a lot of guesswork in there, though, and a lot of it depends on a lot of variables. So I think it's difficult to say at this stage, really.
Okay, that's good to understand. So really, we don't know when, but we know that it can be in anything from as little as the next 4 months to a year.
Yeah, I think that's or longer it could be. But the looking back at the other white papers in terms of when the changes were effective. So, for example, the 2018 white paper was largely completed by about January 2021. Looking even further back, the white paper before that was 2005, the immigration white paper. It's kind of took 3 to 5 years really to be implemented fully. That was probably a much bigger set of reforms. It was the introduction of the whole points-based system. But it just gives you an idea of you really can't you won't really know really when these things will come in.
And sorry, actually, this is my question to you, Nick. Would actually some of the things in this white paper constitute as being larger reforms?
So, like for example, the stuff about earned citizenship. So things like you've got to earn your citizenship. That kind of proposal is going to really require fundamental change to the British Nationality Act from 1981, which is a kind of it's a 40-plus-year-old bit of legislation. So yes, I would definitely say that some of it is fundamental, but it's not all going to come in at the same time. As I guess some of it will come in less time, some of it will come in more time, depending on what needs to change in the underlying rules.
It's good to know. Okay, so what do we know? I know that we have a few things that we know that they want to instill. So I was hoping that we could run through it from the top. So when it comes to skilled worker visa, what's being proposed for now?
Okay, so in terms of skilled work, the proposal is to essentially prevent sponsorship for roles that are below degree level. So that's technically known as RQF level 6. Currently, it's level 3 through 6. So that's kind of roughly equivalent to A level up to degree level. And they're saying that in the future, it's going to be reduced to just degree level occupations. And so this is basically how it was before 2021, before the last white paper. So we're basically reverting back to that previous um,
Mm.
So
But what does that mean for some of the roles that are on the lower, like, I mean, like engineers, I guess there's some role types, right, that are underneath the RFQ6.
so yeah, they won't be sponsorable in future. That's the
Mm.
plan. And so I guess the other really important point to say is that for those who are already in skilled worker roles, there will be transitional provisions. Like it's not like they're going to say from a certain point in time, okay, you don't have an RQF level 6 role when you have to leave the country. There will be transitional provisions in place for people who are already in the skilled worker route. So that's explicitly made that point in the white paper.
So they are discussing things retrospectively then as well.
So as in like
People who are already on skilled worker visas and then having to make different kinds of adjustments.
yeah, so that there are essentially going to be provisions to kind of grandfather them through on the current rules as they apply, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the other big point they make is that salary thresholds are going to be rising. So the kind of minimum amount that you have to pay a skilled worker is going to be going up. But there's also a point that they say they're going to ask the Migration Advisory Committee to also review this. So there's a bit of a, they say it's going to rise, but they also say they're going to ask this independent body to review it and then provide recommendations. So presumably that's going to be above the current kind of 38,000 threshold that there is at the moment, which is obviously getting quite high for employers. So there are kind of additional burdens on employers in addition to this proposed salary hike that we see coming down, but also additional kind of regulatory burdens. There's talk of having a workforce strategy, for example, if you want to be able to sponsor from overseas. And they're also increasing the cost on the employer side, which is the immigration skills charge, which is a charge that employers pay per year of the sponsorship for skilled workers. And they're increasing that by 30%. So overall, it's quite a bleak picture for the kind of future of the skilled worker route, and it's likely to significantly reduce the number of people who are going to be eligible to apply under it. There was some kind of, a small kind of piece of good news, I guess, for skilled workers. They were going to, they're talking of exploring making it easier to move between licensed sponsors for the duration of the visa. So at the moment, of course, someone has to make a new application, change of employer application, and they're talking about whether maybe they'll think about not making people have to do that, which would obviously be kind of very useful.
And what about like any under RFQ6, so under degree level roles, like maybe like people that are, there's still like the shortage occupation list roles, is that also going to be changed?
So I think they are, yeah, they're basically going to be getting rid of that. So their plan is essentially to put that out to review at the moment in terms of how exactly that's going to work. The Migration Advisory Committee are going to be advising on salary thresholds and also the discounts that are available in the, to the various thresholds. So yeah, that's also essentially in the future. It looks like what we can say at the moment is that the government is keen on just having RQF level 6 employees in those roles for in skilled work going forward.
Mm. Good to know. And what about the graduate visa, which I know there's been some discussion around as well?
So the graduate visa, they're going to be reducing the period of time that you can be on the graduate visa from 2 years to 18 months. That's the plan at the moment.
Mhm.
Again, just to re-emphasize that all of these points that we're discussing are proposals, they're not rules. So all of this is not necessarily up for grabs, but it's definitely things that people can be making representations on in the kind of consultation period that's going to follow.
Yeah. And let's say if someone was to apply for a graduate visa right now, would that affect them?
Yeah, the current period is 2 years, so no, it won't affect them. So until the
or
rule,
those currently on it?
yeah, all the people currently on it. No, correct.
Okay, that's good to know. Um, I mean, the graduate visa didn't used to not even exist for a long time. It did exist, then it didn't exist. So, I mean, I'm glad that they're even keeping it with everything that has come out. And global talent visa, anything that it says around that route?
So I guess they are more positive about the global talent visa. Obviously, it's hugely more restrictive than and inaccessible for many people. But they are aiming to increase the numbers of those individuals who hold this visa, and they're trying to basically streamline the process for people
Mm,
in routes within the global talent route. So yeah, they've always been quite positive about global talent as a route, but the issue has always been the very high barrier to qualify really within that
yeah.
route.
And there's also like, sorry, I know that it wasn't listed here, but there's also some good stuff around high potential individual, right? Where they've said that more institutions might be added to it.
Yeah, so I think they are going to be expanding the list of eligible institutions. Currently, it's on, if you went to the top 50 universities as published by the Home Office from year to year, you are able to make an HPI application, and they're going to be expanding that to the top 100 instead of the top 50. That's my
Mhm.
understanding. So that's the proposal there, which is going to be good for those who went to those institutions. Um, and just in terms of other things as well, they're planning on reviewing the innovator founder route, which at the moment, it's not a viable route for a lot of people because hardly anyone applies really, and
Mm,
that tells you what you need to know about the innovator founder route. So they're going to need to do quite a lot of uh, reform to that if it's going to be viable for um, for anyone really. So
yeah.
so yeah, that's those are the other kind of points as well.
I mean, kind of positives, I guess. It sounds like more opportunity for people potentially on global talent visa and potentially for people wanting to go down innovator founder visa. So, I mean, they're talking about trying to attract more talent. That's the best in
Yeah,
quotation marks.
I feel
Um,
I feel like we're really clutching at straws there, Claire. But yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, trying my best to keep it somewhat positive and optimistic. Okay, and I guess the most important thing, indefinitely to remain permanent residency. What is
yeah.
it said about that?
Okay, so just quick point before we get into the thing that's really been in the news this week. So they're going to raise the language requirement to B2 uh, at the point of settlement, which is obviously it's been B1 for a very long time, and a lot of people kind of get the B1 certificate and will kind of continue. Um, and it may come as a surprise that you need to retake a test at B2 essentially. So don't overlook that. I'd be surprised if that is something that the government drops in the actual rules, but who knows? Okay, so the main thing about the ILR obviously is that they are planning to extend the qualification period from 10 years, from 5 years up to 10 years. So that will mean that you will have to be in the UK for a 10-year period in order to then apply for settlement. That's the current proposal.
Is that, sorry to cut you off, Nick, but just so that we're clear, is that just on skilled worker, or could that be in an array of different visa categories? Is that clear in the proposal?
It's not clear on the proposal. They refer to the points-based system. But essentially, in any route, you've got the opportunity to rely on other routes that you've been in. So, for example, like if you've been on the skilled worker route and then you move to the global talent route and apply for settlement, you can combine those two. So there may be some flexibility there, given how draconian this proposal is. But at the moment, we don't know about combinations of leave for that for an application for settlement at this stage. What they do say in this proposal is that there will be an opportunity to reduce the qualification period from 10 years to below 10 years based on contributions to UK economy and society. And they say that the consultation is going to be launched on that later this year.
Sounds like that would take a long time, though, to figure out. I mean, what constitutes as a contribution? Getting a promotion at your work, or how much money you give to charity? I mean,
yeah.
Sorry,
so,
not to be a cynic.
Yeah, so it feels like that's going to be quite a complicated scheme to work out. And it's such a huge change, like we were talking about before, in terms of the timeline. It may be one of those things that takes a lot longer to implement than they're expecting. And just quickly as well, after the proposal is to also apply the settlement model, so this kind of earned settlement to citizenship as well. So there's hardly any information in terms of what that's going to look like at the moment. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That's what their plan is at the moment.
And retrospectively, is that something that we're clear on, whether or not this will affect people already here in certain visa categories or not?
So I think that's on our what we don't know list. Moving
Maybe I should go straight into the what we don't know. Yes.
So I guess this has been the kind of main concern, and rightly so, for people who are currently on a skilled worker visa, for example, on a 5-year route to settlement. There's been some news reports, and that's all they are, of conversations with ministers where the intention has been expressed that it will apply to those who are already in the UK. But we have literally no idea whether that's just someone, that's just a news report. It's not been confirmed in any official capacity yet. And I guess, so what I would say, about that is that the Home Office tried to change the qualifying period for people in what used to be called, we used to have something called the Highly Skilled Migrant Program, the HSMP. And they tried to increase the qualifying period from 4 years to 5 years for people who were already there. And this was successfully challenged in the High Court at the time in 2009. And so that doesn't mean they can't do it, but it just means that I think that if they did try and do this, there would almost certainly be a kind of legal challenge to it, based on kind of principles of legitimate.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the questions that were coming in, and some of them were exactly on that point. Like, what can I contest this if it's retrospective? Can I legally sue the government for doing this retrospectively?
Yeah, and so I think, for example, the highly skilled migrant program case that I mentioned, it's quite a small kind of pool of people, but this is literally going to affect, if they tried to apply it to everyone who's currently, within, on a route settlement of 5 years within the points-based system, it's going to be in excess of 1 million people. So I think it's going to be it's hard to see how that won't be challenged in the courts, and that's also going to affect the timeline, of course, because
Mm.
if there is a challenge, then that's going to kick this down the road. One would assume by quite some time.
Yeah, I was going to ask what if they put it through like primary legislation so that then you can't contest it.
Yeah, but then again, you have to go through primary legislation, so it's that that's a um, it'd be debated in Parliament, and it would be much more difficult for the government to get through. Usually, what the government does is it uses secondary legislation, which is much easier. Basically, it's hardly ever challenged in Parliament. So, if they did go via the primary legislation route, then yeah, it might ward off a challenge. Wouldn't guarantee it. People can still, they tried that with the Rwanda litigation. They put it in primary legislation, and it was still unsuccessful in the Supreme Court in the end. Um, so yeah, I mean, as I think we talked about, Karina, like we don't know
What they're gonna,
whether this will come into force, but there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before this comes into place. Um, and and if they do try and apply it to people who are already in the UK, then I would be very surprised if it wasn't subject to a legal challenge.
yeah, scrutiny. Actually, I saw someone asked this, but I also was wondering because I did the 10-year route to settlement, right? 10 years to ILR. I had all these other visas that I was on. For those, has that route, so is it going to be that everyone has access to that route, or because it didn't say anything about the 10-year to ILR thing, but that already exists, right? So I'm just confused on that point if it said anything about that.
Yeah, I didn't think there was anything on the 10-year long residence route, but presumably it would become redundant if, well, no, I mean, it probably wouldn't become redundant, but um, the white paper basically didn't mention that route. So we'd have to see
Yeah,
what the government chose to do with it
yeah.
in light of these changes.
And I mean, you kind of covered when these changes will take into effect, but the final form that these changes will take, I guess that's really not something, it's just not something that we know.
I think it just bears repeating that where we started, and for anyone who's joined late, come into this conversation midway through, these are proposals. They are not rules. And it creates a huge amount of uncertainty, of course, but there's still a lot to play for in terms of where we go from here.
Yeah. Before we go into the Q&A, I want to also speak about what we can do right now. So, Nick, I'd love to hear from you as well, but obviously we also have things to add from migrates. But what would you advise people do at this moment in time? The first point is stay calm, stay strong.
So this is so yeah, I guess that's what I would do. Just it's not time to panic yet. But what we can do is we can write to our MPs. That's definitely something that you can do, and you can also there you go. That's another thing that okay. So write to MPs is at the bottom, but in terms of also the consultation process, um, kind of engaging with groups like Migrates about who are going to be in a good strong position uh, with a kind of wide base of stakeholders to be making kind of these points to representatives who are going to be able to get in and speak to people, and see the whites of their eyes and have these kind of meetings where people really understand what the impact of this would be. Like so, for example, I just got off. I had an ex-client who called me this week, who's just about to exchange on a house. He's due to he's on a skilled worker visa, and he's going to be um, uh, you know planning on getting ILR next year, and he's coming up for retirement, and he's not working after that. It's not
Mhm.
only part of his plan. He's not going to get an offer from his employer after that. So does he exchange on his house now or not? These kind of questions and these kind of proposals are kind of quite worrisome for someone in his position. So it's making those points to our representatives in this democracy, and hoping that we can try and curb some of the more egregious elements of the white paper. So yeah, in terms of engaging in the public consultation, absolutely something that we should all be doing. And yeah, speaking to your employer about sponsorship. I know, Karina, do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also will speak about the MP part. So just so everyone knows on this call what Migreats is doing, and I've spoken to Nick about this, we are writing a letter and trying to get 1,000 business owners to sign it. We've already gotten a lot of interest from people, from specifically startups, because we are discussing how, because the fact is that startups, a lot of them don't even last 10 years, let alone 5. And we will not attract the brightest and best if we don't make it an attractive place to come and live and work. So that's what we're doing at Migrates. And when this does go into public, what's the official term of this, Nick? When it goes into public, is it how do you say it? Sorry.
Consultation.
Public consultation, yeah. That's when you can actually contribute reports. And I spoke to someone within who works within the government yesterday, and he advised me, that is also a really good moment when you can present data and showcase that there are businesses that will genuinely be impacted by this. And I just noticed someone asked, how can my company support this initiative? Please ask your employer to send me an email. It's karina@migreats.com, or contact me on LinkedIn if you have an employer that you think would be interested in partaking. We're going to be sending this letter out on Monday to loads of different founders that we know, and the more signatures, the better. So if you would like your employer to take part, please get in touch with us. I mean, you can do that via LinkedIn or via my email. The next point around speaking to your employer about sponsorship. So whether you're on a graduate visa, whether you're on a skilled worker visa, the first thing that you need to do is, not panic your employer. I mean, we teach negotiating sponsorship a lot inside of Migrate, but the thing is that many employers like you will probably have questions around what does this mean, because of the lack of information that is available right now. We really don't know how this is going to affect people and whether or not it will affect them retrospectively. But being prepared and speaking to your employer about, this is the best moment to get me to get on the skilled worker track, is definitely something that you should be thinking about. And if you need help with that, Migrates is there to support you on that as well. So just keep us in the know, or join our community in order if you need that help. So hopefully that gives you also some indication as well around what people are doing things. We're not the only ones. There are people who are representing the healthcare workers. There are people who are representing the education system. We know we have relationships with those people, and they are also, rising up against some of the potential proposals that affect their industries as well. So rest assured, we are trying to mobilize something. But you should still please be sending an email to your MP. On Saturday, tomorrow, we will be releasing a guide on exactly on how to do that. It will be on our social channels, so you can also get access to it, and it will give you a template, and it will also give you links to how you can contact your MP. So hopefully that can also help. Okay, wonderful. I am gonna just jump into our Q&A. So we've got around 20 minutes, and we have actually summarized. So I'm going to ask these questions to you, Nick, so that we can ask these questions well from these individuals. So I mean, this is a question I feel like has already been answered, but we can just kind of ask them anyway. So will the proposed 10-year ILR route apply to people already in the UK on a skilled worker visa, or only to new applicants after a certain date? This is the single most common and emotionally charged concern. People already in the UK feel betrayed or anxious about these retrospective changes. So a clear answer provides clarity on whether they can stay on their expected 5-year path. I feel like you're going to repeat yourself, but if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I can also share. Will it be helpful if I share this, the questions with you, like on a document on my screen?
It's okay. I think I get the gist of it. So just to repeat that, we don't know the answer to that question yet. Okay, we don't know. There have been some news reports, some speculation that the intention of the government is to apply it to people who are already here. However, that's just speculation at the moment. Okay, it's not, there's no official document which says that this is what they are intending to do. So unless and until that is their position in an official document, like a consultation paper, which is what should be coming up next, or further details or statements of the Home Secretary, uh, I would just, I know it's difficult because it's obviously such a huge kind of exercise in rug pulling from under everyone's feet. But I would just recommend just waiting until we know a bit more. But what the white paper definitely doesn't say, it doesn't say that we're going to apply this retrospectively. That's not what it says. It says that this will be the plan that, you know, in future. But we just don't know whether that will apply to people who are currently on the skilled worker visa, or it's going to be applying to new applicants at from some date going forward.
Got it. Thank you for answering that. And we have answered this on this call as well. So you'll have the recording. We will share it afterwards and you can listen back to it. And we've kind of discussed this already a few times now. Is the 5-year ILR exemption still valid for post-study visa, graduate visa holders at this moment in time? So is the skilled worker route to ILR still valid right now? Is the question, I think.
Yeah, right now, as we speak, yeah, it is.
Got it. And will graduate visa holders still get the salary discount for skilled worker eligibility under this proposal?
Yeah, so we don't know that. What they've said is that they're going to ask the Migration Advisory Committee to look at salary thresholds and to look at discounts. And what we mean by discounts is the reduction in salary requirements for people like graduates. So again, that's something that we're going to hit more on later this year, one imagines. So the answer is we don't know.
Got it.
As I said, Karina, a lot of this conversation was going to be us saying, we don't know this yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the reality that people obviously still need to hear that, this is what is proposed, but it's still not a lot of clarity. Okay, and then will graduate visa holders, oh, sorry, that was the question I already asked. Are employers backing out of sponsoring because of the white paper? I mean, I know we're only 5 days in, but I feel like I mean, what is the like? Do you know the sentiment of the employers that are your clients, etc.? I'd love to hear what they're saying.
So I don't think I've got enough data points to give a meaningful answer on that at this stage. But I think it's really important, like what you said, Karina, about having that conversation with your employers, and anyone who's in a kind of position where they could be sponsoring, to understand that these are not new rules. These are a set of proposals, and there's a lot of water to come under the bridge. And for employers to understand that the current system is currently in place as it has been, for and it's not going to change tomorrow or next month. It's going to change at some point quite far down the track. So yeah, I think it's important to make those points clear in conversations with employers.
Okay, and okay, that's good to know. I mean, like, 1 second. And is there legal precedent that suggests the UK government can retroactively change settlement rules?
Yeah, so this is the highly skilled migrant program case that I mentioned, where they tried to do it but were successfully challenged. So it was a 4-year qualifying period, and they tried to extend it to 5, and this was challenged on the basis that those who were already in the route had a legitimate expectation, and it was basically unfair to do it to them. So, but that was kind of some time ago now, and so I wouldn't use that as a kind of, well, this can't happen because this previous case sets a precedent that says it's not permitted to happen. But yes, what that case does show is that there will almost certainly be a legal challenge to this, and so in my view. That's why I think that's why that case is important, because it shows that we can challenge this, even if it's via primary legislation that's made. It's likely that there'll be a legal challenge on the grounds of fairness to this, but not for some time.
That's good to know. And another question is around how will English language requirements be tested for when it comes to the graduate visa holders? I mean, I'm assuming that's still very unclear.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think in general the kind of English language requirements are going to go up to be, but like for everyone. But I think for graduate visa holders, because they have a degree, it's less of an issue in terms of the level, because most degrees, most graduate visa holders will have degrees from the UK, so won't need to worry about taking tests at particular levels.
And then I think that just to find like another clarifying question on like what are the steps for this to come into effect? So I think like we kind of touched upon a lot of the things, but in terms of like an actual step-by-step process, like this is a white paper, then it goes into consultation, right? And then what's the next step after that?
So then, as we discussed, there'll be different tracks for different types of rules. So if it requires primary legislation, then they'll have to introduce a bill. It will go through committee stage and, Commons first reading, second reading, to the Lords, and then to Royal Assent. And then it would only be after that that there would be that's when you would be probably challenging those rules that came via that way. And then we talked about secondary legislation, so rules which are not considered to require primary legislation, which can be done much more quickly and without a lot of those steps, which is why the time frame for any rule changes within secondary legislation are much quicker than for primary legislation.
Okay, and Nick, what is your own personal feel on this? Like, just from your own perspective, it'd be great if we could wrap up the call and just get what you think.
So I find it really difficult to imagine that they will apply this
Yeah.
retrospect. I find that really difficult to get my head around. But then again, I have been working in immigration law for 15 years, and there's been lots of times where I thought something, it's like, no, they can't do that. And then they do that. So I think that it's easy when you're kind of working with a lot of other people who all see kind of migration as a great thing, and who see the benefits that it brings to the country. And for everyone to think there's no way they can do that, that's crazy. But then if you step out of that kind of milieu of people, I think it's not too difficult to see, well, this is going to have a huge downward impact on migration to the UK, and that's probably a good thing. You can see other people who think in that way. So I genuinely don't know which way they would go on it. I think it would definitely be subject. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it will be subject to legal challenge, as I've said several times. But beyond that, my my heart says that they wouldn't be doing this, but my head says, well, they could do.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nick. We really appreciate the time that you spent with us today. And yeah, I'm just gonna go back quickly to slide about us. Oh, sorry, I don't know what just happened. But actually, sorry, I don't know what happened with my slide. But yeah, basically, if anyone has any questions, any comments, any concerns, you can send an email to myself, karina@migreats.com, or rim@migreats.com. Specifically, if you have an employer that is interested in signing the letter that we are going to be sending out to MPs, please, please, please get in touch, because the more signatures that we have, especially from established businesses, large companies that sponsor the better. And we will do our best, and professionals like Nick will also do their best. And know that you have our support. And if you need to join us in a more formal capacity, you're also welcome to do so. But in general, there are people that are fighting your corner in this, and you're not alone. So I hope that you can get off this call with that sentiment. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. All right, take care, everyone. We'll be sending the recording in the next few hours as well, if you want to listen to any of it. Speak soon. Bye now.